Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Council. It's your girl, Cosette.
Lexi.
And Rachel.
And now we're sitting in order of
We
our intro.
are.
That's fun. This is our second episode now in the studio. It's very exciting.
Woo-hoo.
Very
I
liberating.
could get used to this.
I could get used to this, too.
We should make this a routine.
I think so, too.
And then after, we'll get our wine.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe?
That's
Okay.
the one thing that we're missing that
I know,
we usually have.
the wine, but
Yeah.
That's
Lexi.
okay.
Lexi's upset.
It's too
I'm-
early. It's 10 a.m.
I'm struggling.
Okay, so today we're talking about the law of detachment, which is something that I love so much.
I need work on it. I need cues from Cosette, queen of law of detachment.
I stumbled upon the law of detachment on when it as pertains to dating on TikTok, and it's something that I embrace so heavily and I think about very much because I think a lot of times thinking of the law of detachment in the lens of first dating someone, it's really easy, especially as we're going to discuss with like anxious attachment style, which I think I've fallen into in the past.
Which I am falling into.
Yeah, to get
I feel
really
like I have some of that.
yeah, to get really attached to the outcome, especially before you're exclusive with someone, when you're just going on these dates and you get so hyper fixated on what the future is. Guilty. And so embracing the law of detachment is really important in terms of just making sure that we are not getting attached to any outcome and that we are able to look at something objectively and just like not get our heads spun off.
I love this.
So by definition, the law of detachment is letting go of the outcome and trusting the process. So there's this one quote.
So tough.
There's this one quote, to get anything in the physical world, you must detach from the outcome and be in the process. What do you guys
Beautiful.
think of when you think of the law of detachment?
I think of the law of detachment makes me think of not having expectations. Like, you can't have expectations when you first start dating something, but that doesn't mean lower your standards.
Yeah.
Expectations and standards are two different things. You have to have standards, but not expect what you don't know. Because when you're starting a relationship, you're figuring that out together. You know, you're finding a routine.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a good... I didn't even think about it that way until you just talked about it. And now I'm thinking that makes a lot of sense, how expectations versus standards are different, and how so often we build up these expectations that, oh, this is gonna be the one. This is the one. We're gonna marry. We're gonna start a family. We're gonna go on trips. We're gonna travel. We're gonna get a home. All these things, and we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He hasn't even met our standards yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
so I really like how you differentiated the two.
Yeah, and when speaking of standards, it reminds me of a TikTok that I just sent you girls,
Oh.
or maybe it was a reel. And we've had this conversation a lot about feeling let down because our partner didn't do something that we didn't even necessarily ask them to do, and kind of like you set this expectation in your head, but you never communicate to them. It's kind of like I'm testing him. Okay, let's see if he brings me coffee today because I said I really need coffee, and then he doesn't, and you're like, I wish that he did. Why didn't he? If he's the one for me, he should just know to do that. And I think that media and like, you know, these fairy tales train us to think that everything should be perfect and that your partner should know exactly what you need before it even comes out of your mouth, and that's just not reality.
No.
So when we think of standards, it's important to have open communication, and like you can't what's the phrase? If you want something, you have to ask for it.
Yes.
And then if they don't deliver on that after expressing that it's important to you, then that's reason for concern. But you can't get mad at someone if you didn't ask them to do it. They're not
Yeah.
a mind reader, you
To
know.
add on to what you're saying, awareness is key. Your partner might not know that you want a coffee, you know, once a week. You know, it's you expressing that and saying, this would bless you.
Thank you.
Saying that this, you know, this little gesture, you know, maybe once a week or every other week would mean a lot to me. And then, you know, they'd hear it, they'd understand, and hopefully they would bring you a coffee every week.
I think
Exactly.
Mr. Right knows how important coffee is to me.
Oh, I think
But
everyone knows how important coffee is
That's
to you.
why I'm really excited about this episode in Law of Detachment, because I also have some control issues. So I don't know if he'll make my coffee correctly. So I'm like, no, it's okay, I'll make it. And it would be nice to have him make my coffee, but
Question, have you ever taught him how to make your coffee?
not specifically. So the other day he's like, do you want a coffee? And I was like, it was 11 at night.
Wow.
I was like, you've never asked for coffee in your life. Why now? He's like, well, I'm going to have this dessert. And so I thought maybe I'll have coffee. He has it with all creamer. So really it's not a coffee.
It's a dessert.
But then I did
Wow.
in that moment. I said, okay, I want mostly milk, a little bit of creamer, because we have one of those cappuccino latte makers. So
Bougie.
it does all the work for you, but he's ratios. And it was a lot on the creamer. And it was fine because I'm eating it with dessert. But I was like, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's
When
appreciated.
we have some time, I'll go through the measurements,
Uh-huh.
but it is the thought in that moment that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
counted. But
Yeah.
yes, I'm like, I'll make my coffee in the morning. Thank you.
And that's okay. You know, you can understand that you like how you get it made
Yes.
better. So,
Yes.
so we've all struggled with anxious attachment at different stages of our lives.
Currently.
How so, Lexi? What is your experience with anxious attachment, and how are you able to train yourself a little bit more to let go of that control and allow things to be in the flow?
So, great question,
Thank
Cosette.
you.
And I I had avoidant style attachment. And I think when we all took those tests and talked about our attachment styles in another episode, that was really interesting to me. And throughout the course of my first relationship, when I was very detached. I did not date in high school. I didn't want to be intimate with anyone. I was really scared of having that emotional connection with people. And so during the first relationship that I had, I felt like I could open up more. And it was
Mm-hmm.
throughout my last relationship, um, my very unhealthy, toxic one, that really kind of kicked me off into anxious attachment style. And, when you have that relationship that kind of shifts how you can talk to someone and how you can bring up problems, that's when it became really hard for me to separate and not enter into an anxious space. So now when I'm in my current relationship, I still see some of those habits and I still find myself anxiously attached even though I'm not with someone who was like my ex.
Mm-hmm.
And so, talking about the law of detachment, things that I've tried to do to really separate myself from those anxious feelings is first of all communicating them and telling my partner what I need in order to feel secure, whether that's check-ins with them, whether that's like, hey, when you go to this party, can you please, call me when you get there or call me when you're leaving or just send me a message every few hours. Just saying that, hey, this is my expectation. I'm already communicating that to you. If you don't meet it, I'm going to become more anxious and I would
Mm-hmm.
really like to have peace of mind. So, right now, what's helping me is just communicating where I'm at with my anxious attachment style and having my partner say, okay, I need to do this in order for you to feel secure. And I'm hoping,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's helped throughout having those boundaries set and those expectations met. I'm becoming less and less dependent on those check-ins and
Yeah.
less needed for those interactions
Uh-huh.
when still it's like, okay, he's gonna message me in an hour. Yeah, scratching. and
She's getting
and
anxious
so
right now.
that's what's helped me separate. And
Yeah, interesting.
yeah.
So it's not necessarily that you are not anxious avoidant, but understanding that that's something that you're going to live with, and how can your partner best support that so that it's not detrimental to the
Yes,
relationship.
and I think that's why I'm really happy that we're talking about this, because it's something I need, and hopefully other people that are listening to this episode can get some information from this, because when you realize how anxious and how much energy you're putting into another person or your relationship, you have so much less energy for yourself, and your aspirations and your wants and your hobbies and everything else goes out the window,
Mm-hmm.
because all you're doing is focusing on that person and, okay, when is he going to be home? When are they going to do this? When are we going to have lunch? Should I message them and see if we can have a date today? And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And if they want to coordinate with you, you two can do that together.
Mm-hmm.
And I've wasted so much time and energy, even in this relationship, just trying to hyperfixate and control and make sure that I'm available when they need me, instead of, oh, when I'm available, then we can coordinate.
Yep.
And so, honestly, like, I'm gonna learn so much from Cosette and
Oh,
this law of detachment, because
I'm like shaking to speak right now. Yeah.
no, trust me, anxious girly here
Uh-huh.
present, standing in for everyone who also has anxious attachment.
I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I think Rachel and I were both kind of experiencing the dating pool at the same time for a minute there, where we were dating around and we were getting excited about certain people, and all three of us are very hopeless romantics, and there were certain situations that we were going through where I remember I was definitely like, oh my gosh, guys, like this is it, and then I put too
Multiple
many
times.
I put girl, you quiet. I put too many eggs in a basket, and then I got burned over and over, and I had to take a step back and think, what am I doing wrong? Like, why is this not working for me? And why does it feel like the dating experience is different for that other person? So I want to start with a few tips on how we can practice the law of detachment in dating.
Tell
And
me.
feel free to hop in and
Tell me.
contribute any of your tips. But one thing that really helped me was, I don't want to say, I'm just going to say it, like keeping a roster in a certain way. And this is not like a sexual roster. This is just, why are you laughing at me? Girl, this feels targeted. But just keeping your options open in those early stages of dating and not putting too much time in one person.
That is true.
Even if you feel like this person, oh, but this really might be like, I've like turned off my emotion a little bit in those early stages of dating before, just so I don't get too excited. So just talking to multiple people and keeping your options open.
Yeah.
And something Rachel said to me was, you're not off the market until someone takes you off the market. And it just helped
right.
me
I love
realize,
that.
That's
like,
right.
it helped me realize, like, if I start dating someone and I really like them, you just can't trust anyone until you can trust them.
That is very
And
true.
The way you said that made me think of Bridesmaids when she's in the jewelry store and she's like, you can't trust anyone.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Kristen Wiig.
The way you
who
said
says
that.
But just realizing that something can be good, but you can still be getting to know that person at the same time.
Yes.
And so I just really, I guess, disattached myself disassociated and detached myself emotionally to the point where if I'm dating someone and like my friends will be like, maybe it's you people, maybe it's some other friends in my life are like, ooh, but tell me more about that. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it yet because I'm just not sure yet. I'm still getting to know
recently I
them.
have noticed that that's the approach you take because,
Yeah.
I think talking about it with your girls, you get excited and you can't help but get excited. And then
Yeah.
you're like, let me talk to him. Oh, when
Uh-huh.
am I going to see him? And it just elevates those feelings. And when you're like, nope, I want to play it chill. I want to be cool. Like, let's talk about anything else. It distracts your mind and you don't feel like, oh, I need to text him now and see what we're doing.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing
No,
because then
I
I
don't
let
think
myself
so.
get excited when that person has proven it to me enough and when I've trusted them enough.
Has anyone proved it to you?
Well, I don't know,
recently?
Lexi.
Oh.
We're finding out.
Oh, okay.
But I think that just like allowing yourself the time before getting too excited has allowed me to protect myself, and maybe it's a little bit more of like a heartless approach, but
I don't think it's heartless.
I feel
Thank
like
you.
what helps me, I don't think it's
Thank you.
heartless, Lexi. I feel like what I really appreciated or what I really like is knowing the intention you are like having an intention with where you want to go and what you want when you start dating. Because people date and they're like, oh, I want to date, for something serious. And people date, hey, I just want to mess around. And I feel like, I think it's Hinge, but what I appreciated on Hinge was you could tell what you're looking for. You're looking for, short term, long term,
People lie though.
playmate. I know. People lie, but it
And women
helps.
have a
But then
tendency
you
to
could-
try to fix.
Mhm.
Oh, he doesn't think he wants long term. Let me show
Oh yeah,
him.
no, don't do that.
Yeah,
don't do that, Lexi. But I feel like just knowing that, it's like, oh, they already displayed that on their profile. Now you can have a conversation about where they want to go,
Yeah,
and I feel
exactly.
like having that conversation helps you navigate, oh, do I put all my eggs in this basket or not?
Mhm.
Not saying that you should put all your eggs in any basket until proven.
Yeah.
Proven.
I feel like it helps.
And I think also, like, okay, let's imagine I have a basket full of eggs in front of me, and I have multiple suitors
You
in
do
front of
look
me.
like Easter.
You
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah, I
It's
think
giving
Where are the bunnies?
Easter.
It's on your pen.
Yeah, this is
The
my
bunny's
bunny
tail.
here. But like, okay, let's say I have a basket full of eggs in front of me, and there's one suitor that I'm very excited about. But instead of giving all my eggs, I'm sprinkling them around the garden, and I'm giving, maybe a little bit of attention. I'm maybe still entertaining like other options. This is before exclusive. I want to make that clear.
Yes.
But also
definitely.
keeping some eggs in your basket and continuing to fuel your activities, and not necessarily like, oh, I need to distract myself from this one person with other people, but remembering even when you're in a relationship, it's important to maintain those same activities, those same routines, game nights with your friends, like doing things with your friends. And I think that when someone gets really excited about one person, it's easy for them just get totally engulfed in that one person and forget about their own activities, like even in those really early stages. And that's where a lot of people set themselves up for a disaster.
Well, I think that's why, like, what you're talking about here and making sure your eggs aren't just in one basket with someone. And you even said, like, leaving some for yourself, too. practicing it
Mm-hmm.
before you're in a relationship, while you're getting to know someone, establishing that habit of, oh, Tuesdays I do this with my girls, or Wednesdays I go to, like, whatever your routine is,
Keep
then
it.
you're almost like you're just adding someone to that routine instead of changing all your routine for
You don't
this
want to
person.
completely change your routine.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what's so great about what you're describing, is that you're like, I'm keeping eggs for myself. I'm doing that. And then, so when we get into our relationship, then it fits into my schedule, instead of
Exactly.
like, I'm doing everything I can to make sure I fit in our relationship and our schedule. Like,
Yeah, and we know, like, I think I'm someone who has a lot of like scheduled commitments on a weekly basis. And when I start dating someone, I don't cancel Hot Tub Tuesday. I don't cancel pickleball. I don't cancel game night. I don't cancel bachelor night.
and that's what I'm saying,
Podcasting.
queen
Yeah,
over here, because
thank you.
you maintain your schedule and you don't make apologies for it.
And you want to make sure, as you mentioned, which is so important, that that person fits into your schedule, as opposed to, okay, I started seeing this person, I'm going to spend all day, every day with them.
I used to pickleball every day, but now, okay, you're right. I don't need a pickleball. And then all of a sudden a month goes by and you're like, I haven't pickleballed at all. And that was one
I
of my
haven't pickleballed at all. I thought I have
pickleballed.
often.
And, that's something that I really enjoyed and I put so much time and energy into. Why haven't I done that?
Uh-huh.
And it's just, that's something you should maintain.
Yeah.
And I love just how you operate in this law of detachment.
Thank you.
And hopefully I can take that too.
Another piece of advice in terms of applying law of attachment is being present with the person. And this is to say being present as opposed to thinking about the future and thinking about the past. I think like when we go into these hypotheticals in our head, which we will do a whole episode on, and I love hypothetical moments, but it's really that just that's almost like the law of attachment. Like you become so much more attached to this person because you've now imagined them in all these scenarios and that you haven't even experienced. So it's on the hour mark. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen every hour. But allowing yourself to not think, oh well, is this gonna happen? And what if we went on a vacation together? What if they met my parents? But instead, just focusing on what is happening at hand, I think helps me not become too, I guess, swallowed by the relationship.
I think it
Mhm.
also helps you not ignore the red or the flags that come up,
Mm-hmm.
or standards not being met, because when you're in the present, you can, I think, more accurately observe those, instead of when you're imagining of
Yeah.
the future. What, rose-colored glasses? It's for a reason that we have that saying, because you're like thinking about this magical future, when instead of living in the present, you're like, oh wait, I just saw that. That's not cool.
Yeah.
And instead of like glossing over it and be like, oh my god, they did this for me, and instead just
In the moment, you're
Mhm.
taking things as they are. You're like, okay, this is happening. This is how I'm
Yes.
going to deal with it. You're not like, oh, maybe this will happen or maybe this will
Mhm.
happen. You're literally going with the flow. And
Yeah.
I guess I have I have a thought, and then I wanted to ask you girls. What really helped me detach actually was changing up my texting style. So I love like texting in general, whether it's regular or like Snapchat messaging.
emojis.
Oh, I am a big emoji girl. Like I love emojis. My boyfriend like said, "Oh, he's adapted to my emoji my emoji game because he knows I love emojis." And it's like
Which
when
is
you're
sweet.
when you're
you can
texting,
yeah.
it really portrays what you're trying to say, because a lot could get misconstrued during text. But where I was going with this was in regards to detaching to, someone you're interested in is my texting style. So I felt like due to past experiences, texting sending texts that are less frequent. So let's say you do like four, major texts a day. I feel like giving that space and time to let them go along with their day and let you go along with their day instead of like texting 24/7. Oh, what's up? What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you get to enjoy each other's life while getting to know each other and talking to each other without being overwhelming or having your mind completely consume them.
Yeah.
So, have you guys what is your preferred texting style when you meet someone? Has any certain way made a difference in relationships?
Good question. I've talked a lot about the idea of texting creating a false sense of intimacy. So it's something that I really look out for in the beginning. Not that it's a I'm not saying that a lot of texting is a red flag, but I just usually, especially in those early stages, would rather get to know all those little details of your day in person. Like I don't, especially if we have met a few times and like, you're telling me like how you made your coffee in the morning. Everyone is very different. Like I just have not in the past been that much of a texter, but then I've also been with people who are more of a texter, and then I've been with people who are not big texters at all. And so I think
With no
adapting,
emojis.
yeah, adapting to the texting style of your partner is really important, as you mentioned. But yeah, I think when it pertains to law of detachment, I like to stay a little bit more hands off in that area.
I, because I haven't dated too
I know
much.
you need to like put your head back.
I know. I'm trying to think because, with Mr. Right, my current boyfriend, we fell into our relationship very quickly and very like
Mm-hmm.
all consuming in a way where we hung out very quickly together, and then when he went on a like a family vacation or back to Peru, and we texted quite a bit over that. He would tell me like, I'm going surfing, I'm doing this, and then 4 hours later he like, hey, I just did this, and call me. And that was within a week of knowing him. So at the time I didn't feel like it was too much talking, and we already hung out 3 or 4 times before then, and he is not a very big texter at all. So that was, I think, trying to establish a connection with me, because I think what you're both talking about, when you get to know someone also, I think you tend to text more, and then your true texting style becomes apparent.
Yeah.
So I think when I first started texting with him, I thought he was big on emotions, big on texting, big on
Big on
like
emotion. I thought he liked talking
I
about
thought
emotions.
he like yeah, I thought like he would ask questions, answer questions, say good morning. And I mean, we live together now, so some of those are a little
Yeah.
difficult to do on text.
Mhm.
But then it quickly became like I noticed that his texting style is not very much, and that was a way to establish a connection. And
Mhm.
so, not that I regret anything of what we've done to get to know each other, and I'm very happy in my relationship. But I think what we're talking about here is, Rachel, kind of what you highlighted is lowering your texting in a way, and making sure that when you are messaging with someone, that you either manage the way that you're talking with them, or be vigilant on how they're talking to you, because that might not be the frequency at which they always talk to you. So if you're really enjoying that they're texting you a lot, I don't want to be cynical, but like be
It may
wary that
change up.
they may not change it, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Wait, you
Mhm.
text you used to text me a lot and now you don't." And they're like, "Oh, well, like I don't really text a lot. I just did that to like try to get to know you."
Mhm.
And so, if that's something meaningful to you, just be cautious about that. And I think what you both highlighted, don't put all your texting power into it, and just see kind of how the natural flow and progression of it is.
Yeah, so natural flow, that's a huge thing I want
Yeah.
to pinpoint because when we talk about law of detachment and a lot of these things that I've mentioned, and I've even warned a few times, like, oh, not to be heartless, but I think a lot of times
Not heartless.
these practices can come off as showing disinterest, but it's not disinterest, it's more so letting the natural flow progress and just seeing how things go naturally
Mhm.
instead of pressing gas
But
really
that's so
fast.
hard to do. How do you do it?
Oh gosh. Uh how do I show interest while being
How do
detached?
you go with the flow while showing interest but not?
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, you just stole my question because I was actually going to ask
Well,
you
I just
that
asked
in
you
different
that.
words. Well, I think like a better way to address it is like ways that you can practice detachment while still showing care in a relationship because then there's this balancing act of like protecting yourself but still not being heartless and like showing that you care, showing that you want to get to know that
Mhm.
person. And I think it's more of like I've been in a situation where I'm like, well, I don't want to get to know you too much because and I've been even almost a little bit too honest with law of detachment, but it's important to keep giving the person validation and like still showing interest, still checking in on them, but having that balance. I don't even know if I'm answering the question correctly. But yeah, just like sometimes you do have to give a little bit of like let go of the fear and sometimes you do have to like leap into it a little bit and although it may be scary there's a balance between like protecting yourself through law of detachment but then also like letting yourself fall in love and letting yourself follow that natural progression of things.
Okay.
It's a balancing act.
It's
It's
a
a balancing
balancing
act.
act.
Yeah.
I want to say something
Say it.
that annoys me because I have been in this situation in the past. But when you meet someone, what if it's like you meet them and it goes so well, and every single time you see them in person, it goes fantastic. But when you're away, it's like you don't exist. And it's like 1 or 2 messages throughout the week. And it's like, what the heck? Like, what do you want from this? What's your point? What's your purpose?
Think it's the wrong person.
I'm just venting.
How early are we in dating at that point?
Maybe you see them like once a week or something.
I do think that what
Pretty
you
early.
just kind of like subtly hinted at, if it's someone who it is genuine and they really want to get to know you, I would hope even, distance should not equal for, what is the phrase? Distance out of sight, out of mind. Like, that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
It should be
Like,
even.
don't hit me up when you see a story.
Yeah,
a
even if you
post.
are on vacation, like, if I'm getting to know someone, I would want to know that they are still checking in and talking with me.
So I think that just comes down to intention. If they're not like
Mhm.
reaching out to you when they're away from you, then that definitely says a lot.
I agree.
Yes.
Would you
I
agree
think
with
if
that?
yes, I agree with that. I think if they're or you but are making plans to see each other again, then I don't think texting or filling gap, is as necessary, because when you're getting to know someone, you can say, okay, like hey, what are you doing Thursday? I would love to see you, and it's a Tuesday or something. And you're like, yeah, Thursday works for me, and they don't message you. Maybe we've talked about this too. Thursday morning or Wednesday night to confirm the date, but if you're hearing from them in that frequency, I think that's okay. But if they're not trying to make plans with you, and then a week goes by and they see a story and they're like, hey, where you been? What's up? And you're like, no, I've always been a text away.
Is that breadcrumbing?
Yeah. Is it what term is that one?
Yeah, what term is that one?
So I just think it's like the wrong person.
Yes. If a guy has not made a plan on when he's going to see you next and you're confused, he's not interested.
Yes.
That's my hot take.
I-
Like, you should always
Boom.
know the next time that you're seeing that
I
person.
agree.
And that is a big telltale sign for me when I'm dating someone. If before we even leave the hangout, or if immediately after he's already setting the next date, I feel secure. And then I don't need as much texting in
Yes.
between, because I know.
You're not worried about when you're going to see them.
Exactly.
You know their intention is to see you
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk
we agree.
about, let's just recap some of the tips that we've gone through for detaching. And that's to focus on yourself, like remembering to maintain your
Schedules and
individuality,
your
your
rout-
personal
yes.
interest, your schedule, exactly. Set healthy boundaries. So that is just respecting each other's space, and if they have some friend thing to do, especially in their early stages of dating,
Mhm.
when you're getting to know each other, trusting them, like allow that space to foster the trust and build it. We have let go of control, which is something we all struggle with, but accept that you cannot control the outcomes. You just gotta go with the flow, trust your own actions, embrace uncertainty. Relationships are very unpredictable. That's okay. Every relationship is different. And kind of with not being able to control the outcome, you just have to let things go and communicate openly. So express your needs about specific outcomes, and you can't allow, or you can't expect someone to read your mind. So I think that's really key.
I think we all three preach that communication is so important. And if you are feeling like you're struggling with even like, hey, I'm trying to practice maintaining my own schedule in this relationship, and I want to allow you more freedom and feel less constricted by my anxious or like my anxiety, how can we do that together? Like communicating that to your partner about your intention and what you're trying to do and what you're struggling with is so important and can really solve a lot. So if this is something you're trying to do and you feel like you're not doing it successfully, talk to your partner, talk to, your friends that are closest to you and say like, this is something I'm trying to do. It's really difficult. What's another way I can do this? Is there, I think you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be like 100% all in the law of detachment, but doing little things that you feel like you can tweak. And even just after this episode talking with both of you, I feel like there's things in my life that I can try to relinquish some of that control and some of that anxiety of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I like, how can I prevent that? And you can't. And so what can I do? Okay.
Yeah.
Communication. Yep.
Communication.
Present.
Communication is key. And
Yeah.
on a final note, I'd just say, live in the moment. Do your own thing. Don't be so
YOLO?
focused.
Are we YOLOing
Are we
it?
YOLOing?
Wait,
We
keep going. I
are.
love where this is going, Rachel. Keep going with it.
Just live in the moment. Focus on yourself. Do your own thing. Don't get so wrapped around what someone else is doing because, you know, if you're a priority to them, they will show you.
Yes.
Yes.
So focus on yourself until.
And that's a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
Too bad you
Mic
can't drop
drop.
this mic.
I could drop the gavel.
You could drop the gavel. That's a gavel drop moment.
Gavel dropped.
Anyway, I think that we all are walking away from this conversation
I feel healthier.
inspired,
Yeah.
healthier.
I feel
and
health and wellness.
I hope some of the I never look at the audience, but I hope that
I don't either.
I hope some of the listeners can think about how they can practice law of detachment in their own relationships, not as a way to become disconnected from your partner, but rather strengthen that relationship and strengthen the relationship with yourself. So thank you so much for listening. We are signing off. This is Cosette.
Lexi.
And Rachel.
Bye.